We're going to wrap up what we have here in Chapter 10. Just a few slides left here as we walk through this. Then we're going to get into Chapter 11, and we're going to talk about points, okay, which is something, probably the last most difficult thing we have to learn, so we're going to do that and then see where we end up for the night. All right, so the next part of this that we have to consider is our project budget, right? How much is everything going to cost us in this deal, okay? So, again, when I look at student proposals, the hard cost, the bricks and mortar, so to speak, students do very, very well with that, right? It's easy to calculate, figure out what is a building, what is it going to cost me, okay? Where they really struggle are soft cost, okay? So, a little sidebar on soft cost, right? Pre-opening expenses. How many people have been to Vegas and seen the Mirage Hotel? Right? What's it famous for?
Oh, the fountain? No.
The fountain, yeah, they have the fountain out front, right? Okay. It was also the world's first $1 billion hotel. Okay. So Steve Wynn built it. Cost him over $1 billion to build out that hotel. Okay. Famously, however, in pre-opening expenses, he spent over $100 million on nothing to do with the building. He did it to recruit Siegfried and Roy. You guys know the famous show with the Lions. You guys might not, maybe younger. Okay, and he hired the staff that was going to operate it years in advance to train them. Okay, and people laughed. They said, he's really gone nuts because he had a reputation as a little bit of an outlier. Okay, he built that hotel, spent about $1.17 billion to build it. Anybody know it was privately held at the time, Golden Nugget Properties. How long it took him to repay that hotel?
5 months.
About 37 months, just over 3 years. Okay. So he had a pretty good handle on what he was doing, all right? But most of us can't spend $100 million in pre-opening costs, right? That's just not the way it works. So we have to make sure we have an operating fund to do cash shortfalls, and always take a conservative approach when doing the budget. And as we said, a high, a medium, a low, and then potentially a really low in case you miss your numbers really, really bad. All right? So, the next thing, what are the qualifications of your project team? Now, you may think you and 8 of your drinking buddies from college make a really good project team. My guess is the bank is not going to agree with you. All right? So, we have to be able to lay out all the information for all these different people. So now, we're going to go back to Dubai for a minute. Okay? So, we talked about the Prince of Dubai and what he has built there, right? He's built incredible hotels, he's built these islands, he's done all these incredible projects. But his architect and his developers are also famous for the huge cost overruns that they have, right? Most of the buildings they build cost about twice what they expect them to cost. Now, if you're the Prince of Dubai, you can get away with that. You and I cannot. If we're going to build a $10 million limited service hotel and it ends up costing us $15 million, most likely we're going out of business. Okay? So this is all part of that. Who's going to be your developer? Are they good at this? Have they done these other projects? The architect. If it's a franchise operation, well, it's pretty well designed for you. But if it's more involved than that, what are you going to do? Who's going to be your designer? Right? What brand are you going to use? Who's the hotel management company that's going to operate it? Right? Who's the lender, equity partner? All of these are things that you need to consider in advance, and you need to show that they are qualified for what they're doing. Okay? So, the part that we're going to talk about and do a lot of calculations on are the pro forma. We're going to look at sales expenses and cash flow. But we're really going to focus on return on investment, net present value, and internal rate of return. But if you're going to do a project like this, all 6 of these have to be well thought out and well planned for your investment analysis. Okay? So if you're going to apply for this loan, make sure you understand, or for a loan, make sure you understand if you're applying for a business loan, they are going to ask for your personal financial data. They're going to want to know, what do your income tax look like, right? You're not president of the United States, you can't refuse to give them, okay? So you're going to have your income taxes, you're going to have to give them. You're going to have balance sheets if you have multiple businesses, things like that, right? You're going to have to know, what will the lender require to guarantee for you to guarantee this loan, okay? And they're going to want to look, and they will look closely at your financial data, okay? So what do they do when they look at this when a lender evaluates this investment package? What is it they're looking at, okay? So number one, they want to know, is it a strong project, and is it economically feasible, right? Will this really work? One of the things they're going to do, talk about expanding our local convention center and putting another hotel to do in partnership, not in partnership, but with the Hilton also that's over there. Do we really need that? Somebody's going to study that. They've already done a feasibility study supposedly and said, yes, we definitely need the convention center extended, so then do we need a hotel? So somebody's going to look at that and say, does this make sense, okay? Is the project team really qualified to operate that? That's a key part of this. What's the risk that the venture is going to fail? Everybody wants to know that. That's always a key part of that, right? And what are you doing to minimize that? One of the easiest things you can do to say to the bank, I'm going to minimize it because I got a lot of collateral. Or I've got a large equity investment in there that's going to allow me to fully collateralize this deal. Those are the kind of things that the bank wants to see, okay? So, now, if you're the deal sponsor, you're the one that's putting the deal together, okay? They want to know, how much are you going to be making on this deal? Very, very important to them. What kind of return on investment will the equity investors or the owners get out of this project, okay? How long will it take them to get their money back? What is that payback period, right? We did some basic calculations on that, but it's very important. If you do an investment, you want to know how long it's going to take to get your money back, okay? What's the net present value and the internal rate of return on this project, okay? And how much is the group sponsor making on this deal, okay? And then this is a very, very important one. What are the exit strategies? Not just exit strategy, right? So if you have a group of equity investors and some of them decide they want to leave, what do they have to do? How do they get out, right? That's a very important part. If the business is failing, how do you get out and minimize the amount of damage to your finances, right? Those are all decisions that have to be thought out in advance to make sure that you have a good plan, right? So that is a key part. It sounds crazy when you start a business, you're planning an exit strategy, but you need to, right? It's got to be for lenders, it's got to be for equity investors, it's got to be for owners, and then it's got to be for if the business struggles and we're going to get out, are we going to sell it, what are we going to do? Those are all considerations that need to be thought about in advance. All right? Questions out of Chapter 10?